There are some pretty big rumors swirling around right now that Xbox is preparing to not only announce brand new studio acquisitions at their E3 show, but in fact they might have bought some IP to go along with that. There's a lot here to talk about, so let's get into it. What is going on, everybody? It's Randall419 back again with another video. I hope everybody is having a wonderful day, and if you guys can do me a huge favor, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button, and please hit that notification bell if you haven't already. Thank you guys for all the continued support and for checking out today's video. I think most of you are aware that basically I've been off the grid for the last few days here. No internet, no PC, no Xbox. We replaced the flooring in my studio area, so I had to dismantle my PC. I bought a brand new desk, bought a brand new chair, so we're back in business finally. I hope everybody enjoyed my last video, which was my Xbox Bethesda prediction video, and in that video I did say that Xbox was not going to announce any acquisitions, and it seems like potentially I'm gonna be wrong on that one. We are exactly a week away from the Xbox Bethesda showcase on June 13th, and it seems like rumors are swirling with a very good chance that Microsoft might actually announce some new acquisitions during that show. It's pretty damn exciting, and we're going to talk about it in detail. Now, one of the things you have to realize about Xbox is they're always talking to studios and publishers about potential partnerships, about potential acquisitions. Phil Spencer, the head of Xbox, and Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft, have both been on record saying that they aren't done, that they're always looking to grow, whether it's through hiring talent for their existing studios or potentially growing inorganically by buying more studios. Xbox has talked to so many different developers over the course of the last few years, but of course acquisitions are always tricky, so you have to take any of the information that I'm presenting today as just rumors. They may happen, they may not. Microsoft may be in the final stretches of negotiations with a couple studios, but those negotiations could die off at any point in time. Now, the reason I believe this rumor is legit is because who it comes from. It's always important to check your sources to see who has a really good track record, and this one is coming from my good friend, the co-host of the Xbox 2 podcast, the one and only Jez Corden of Windows Central, who has an excellent track record when it comes to Xbox and Microsoft rumors. So Jez was asked in his Windows Central Discord, hey Jez, do you know if there's any truth to the rumor that Microsoft bought an existing IP, which is another story I'm going to cover a little bit later on? And Jez said, I have good, very good rumors that Microsoft has acquired some IP, yes, but the ones I've heard about are not like AAA hype level stuff, and they may in fact be part of a studio acquisition. Someone else asked him, hey, you think there will be any acquisitions announced during the show, or will they just focus on something else? And Jez says, I think there's a very good chance of at least one acquisition being announced at the show. Jez continued on and says, I do think there's an acquisition on the horizon, which somebody responded with eye emojis, and Jez responded with the thinking emoji. So as you guys can tell, someone took some screenshots of what Jez was saying in a private Discord and posted them online, and that's how the rumor blew up to the point where Jez needed to address it on Twitter by saying, I didn't intend for those comments to go far and wide. But no, I wouldn't be surprised if there was an acquisition, but I have no hard evidence yet. Y'all know I like my evidence, and that is very true. Jez will not really post any articles on Windows Central unless he has hard documented proof. Like when he talked about Xbox Anaconda, Xbox Scarlet, and Xbox Lockhart, he had documented proof that those things were in the works. But Jez hasn't written an article on Windows Central about this yet because it's still just a rumor and he doesn't have hard proof. But he feels pretty good, or at least he wouldn't be surprised if there was an acquisition announced during the Xbox Bethesda showcase. And this is something I kind of talked about when Microsoft officially announced the event. If you recall last year for the July Game Showcase in 2020, everybody was very quick to point out that there would be no business-related dealings at the show, which meant no price point for the Xbox Series X, no reveal for the Series S, and no acquisitions. But this time when it was announced, nobody said anything about business-related things. So it's certainly possible that right now Microsoft are hammering out some details on these deals, trying to get them ready so they can announce them as part of an E3. But we're not done talking about what Jez is saying about this acquisition, because he went on the Iron Lords podcast. And if you guys haven't checked out that podcast, please do. It's one of my absolute favorites. I watch it every single week. I love Lord Cognito, King David, Lord Addict, and Lord Sovereign, and the energy and enthusiasm and the jokes that they bring during their usually 3 to 4 hour show. You're killing me, Cog, with the length of this last one. Anyways, Jez went on that show to talk a little bit more about his predictions for E3, but he was directly asked about this rumor that he started. So Jez says that he likes to have physical evidence to point to that it could have happened. He says to take things with a pinch of salt, which you always should do. He said he heard in a rumor they got an IP from a studio like getting Wasteland with inXile when they purchased them, but he didn't hear anything about buying an IP from a bigger studio like Special Nick did. Rumor has it that they've acquired a studio or two, but he doesn't have physical evidence, so he doesn't want to write an article. And it comes from sources he trusts, but he will never trust a source as much as physical evidence, hence no article. And he got hit up with another source that told him a different studio, so maybe Xbox has actually purchased two. And the studios are not Rockstar or CD Projekt Red size. They are sort of Double Fine inXile level. Make of this what you will, but it seems less speculation and more info from trusted sources without physical evidence. Studios are inXile Double Fine size, give or take apparently, so no real monopolizing happening. It seems Microsoft wants some more smaller teams to either fill gaps in release schedule or grow to AAA like inXile and Playground. So what do I make of all this stuff? Well, I 100% believe Jez and his sources are always usually pretty damn solid. So I do think yes, there is potential for Xbox announcing an acquisition during their E3 show next week, but I already know everybody's looking for the pie in the sky. They remember the Bethesda $7.5 billion acquisition. They want Xbox to go out and buy Warner Brothers Games and spend $4 billion on that, but I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think Xbox is going to buy all of Warner Brothers Games. I think it's mainly because of the IP and licensing issues, which makes it impossible for Xbox to go and do. However, they might be in discussions to acquire some of the individual studios like Traveler's Tale, NetherRealm, or Monolith. So yeah, don't go getting your hopes up that this is going to be a massive acquisition like Bethesda was, because Jez says, hey, it's not Rockstar size, it's not CD Projekt Red size, it's more on the level of Double Fine inXile, a couple smaller studios with the potential to grow into bigger studios. Now, the other part of this rumor is that Xbox might be acquiring some IP, and it would make sense if Xbox bought an independent studio that owned their own IP, that Xbox would acquire that IP during said acquisition. But we do have another rumor here from ACG over at the Defining Duke podcast where he said, quote, "What I'm hearing versus what could happen, I'm just going to go with what I'm hearing, which is that there is going to be a game purchased." He also said earlier in the show that he is confident Microsoft will purchase some existing IPs and that they may get announced at E3 this year. Now, as always, it's not official until it's official, so keep that in mind. Now, I would be remiss not to tell you guys that ACG himself went on Twitter to talk about this rumor, and he said any rumor that I said Microsoft is announcing an IP they bought and for sure announcing at E3 is full of crap. Full of crap. People need to listen to the podcast and all the things said and the context for what E3 joke, hopes, and dreams discussion is even about. As you can see from the tweet and the capitalization, ACG is pushing back against this idea that it's for sure happening, that it's 100% a done deal and it's going to be announced at E3, because who knows if it actually will happen. Even though my buddy Jez Corden has some amazing sources, he doesn't have documentation, so he's not going to write an article. And these acquisition deals fall apart all the time. They could be trying to sign the deal right now to be able to announce it during the show, and it just completely falls apart and doesn't get done by that date. All we have is some very strong rumors from both Jez and ACG about this stuff, but who knows if it actually happened. Do I have any personal predictions on who these studios could be? I don't know, maybe it's a studio that Microsoft is working with right now on a game. They're independent, but Microsoft wants to bring them into the fold. Who really knows, because there's a ton of studios that it potentially could be. And I did see this one brought up to me in DMs, so I wanted to address this in the video. Crytek bought by Microsoft. So this is from 4chan, which probably means it's fake as all hell, but it says, "My friend who works at Crytek's Istanbul Preamble Office revealed me some info regarding Crytek. He's in the gaming industry for 10 years now and very experienced guy. So apparently Microsoft and Crytek started talking about an acquisition last summer after being impressed by early prototypes of Crysis Reboot, which I will discuss later. And since April 2021, this deal is pretty much finalized and they dropped the PlayStation platforms as target platforms for the next Crysis game. It will be announced formally in the E3 2021 during Microsoft's press conference. Apparently, it's pushing technology to its hardest, next-gen exclusive PC, Xbox Series S and X, 60 FPS on consoles with ray tracing, and ray tracing is the default light source. In terms of story, it's a soft reboot of series, which means events of Crysis 1, 2, and 3 still happen, but not directly ties into a new game. So let's forget about the rest of this stuff and talk about this directly. I don't really think Crytek is the one that Microsoft is after because I don't think Crytek really has anything Microsoft wants, realistically. Maybe before the acquisition of Bethesda, where Microsoft acquired id Tech, it's certainly possible that Microsoft would want Crytek for the CryEngine, but they don't need CryEngine anymore because they have id Tech. And yes, I know people would want Rise IP, which is owned by Crytek, so if Microsoft did buy Crytek, then they would own the Rise IP, and they could do a sequel, but I don't think Microsoft cares about Rise enough to purchase Crytek. The only way this would happen, in my opinion, is if Crytek's price was extremely low. So no, I don't think one of the studios that Microsoft might announce for acquisition at E3 is Crytek. I think it's some other different studios. So hit me up in the comments and let me know who you would love Microsoft to pick up as an acquisition. And if you enjoyed the video, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Hit that notification bell if you want to be notified immediately whenever I drop a video like this. Please share this out on social media like Twitter or Facebook, or tell a friend about the channel. And if you want to take your support even further, you can always hit that join button where you'll get access to channel badges and emotes for the Xbox 2 podcast we do every single week with Jez Corden from Windows Central. Thank you guys so much for watching. I truly appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next video. Later, guys.